This is the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. And joining me for episode 257, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
I feel like the last time I was on the show was like episode 203. I think I've missed a few.
Dude, you were just here last time when we were talking to the Rams. I don't know.
Well, I know, but that doesn't feel like a regular podcast. That's just me getting liquored up and yelling at Rams people. This is like a real show. Like I feel like I'm back for a real show for the first time in a minute.
Well, this is our 2019 season expectation show, and this is what we've really kicked off every season with, going back to 2013. So
True.
This is an annual tradition that everyone's now a part of.
Yeah, and aren't we about a week away from our podiversary too? Like it's got to be right about there.
Yeah, I think it's the 10th of August, something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, this is exactly how we start every year. And it will be kind of a fun show to talk a little bit about expectations, because there's a predominant thought process throughout the national media and all of the other fans of every other team about who the Seahawks are coming into this year and what their season is going to look like. And it's hilarious to me because it's a lot like last season when everybody was dead ass wrong. And it's starting to shape up the same way this season as well, where everybody thinks that the Seahawks are probably going to stink and they're going to be dead ass wrong again.
Well, let's start through some of that thought process, because on a national level, I feel like if you're not paying attention, it's easy to put down the Seahawks in so many ways, because just go through the offseason. You have the retirement of Doug Baldwin. You have trading Frank Clark. You know, there's two of your top players on each side of the ball that you're not going to have. And you look back to last year, and yeah, Baldwin wasn't 100%, but he did play in majority of the games last year. So he did have an impact. And then Frank Clark, 10 plus sacks on the defensive line. That's a big loss, especially when you look back and you say, oh, they lost Averill, they lost Bennett from the seasons before. It's a continuation of the hemorrhaging of talent on the defensive line. And there's really not been any places where you can look at and say, oh, they for sure filled the talent, because so many people look at free agency and they kind of discount the idea that talent can come up within when it's just given the opportunity. And it seems like as Seahawks fans, that's where we end up seeing majority of the talent. It's when these big names leave, there's guys that come up and they're there to replace them, and somehow they fill in the production.
Yeah, a lot of guys, they don't understand that there is guys coming up that have been drafted that can help the depth when it comes to defensive line. But the other thing that, especially as a national media perspective goes, that they seem to forget is that you don't have to sign top tier defensive tackles to make a difference on the defensive line if you're the Seattle Seahawks. And we've seen that time and time and time again, where they go out and they get somebody who's maybe a little nicked up, or like you get a little better value like Ziggy Ansah, or you go out and you pick up Earl Mitchell, like guys that are more mid-tier guys that make a gigantic difference going through the season that the national media completely forgets about. Like they just act like they don't count. And so we lose Frank Clark, there's nobody that plays defensive line on the roster anymore. I mean, that's basically what I hear. Like we literally are going to go out on the field with no defensive linemen. It's hilarious to me, because if I look at one position group on this team, short of quarterback, during the Pete Carroll era, that has been the most consistent season in and season out, it is by far the defensive line.
Really?
Absolutely. You get about the same exact production every year out of that defensive line. I detailed it in a few pods back earlier this summer.
If I'm picking a defensive position on that has been more consistent, I think of the linebackers, just because Bobby and KJ, those two guys have been there together, working together since 2012.
Sure, but then you also have the revolving door at strong side linebacker, and that's been up and down.
Well, it's kind of been consistently revolving at the pass rush going back to through the entire Pete Carroll era, right? The most consistency you had was Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill for about 3 or 4 years.
Right. But my point being is that no matter what the personnel has been on the defensive line, whether Chris Clemens was your best guy and Red Bryant, or whether it's been Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill, or whether it was Frank Clark and Jaron Reed, or now when Jaron Reed comes back from suspension, him and Poona Ford and LJ Collier or Ziggy or whoever it is that you plug in there, Pete Carroll always gets good production out of the defensive line. He does.
Yeah.
That out of all of the hand wringing that I hear the national media have and fans have over the defensive, out of all the things that we've lost during the offseason, defensive line is one of the places that I have the least amount of worry. It's going to be what it's going to be, like it is every single year.
It is my most amount of worry, though, because they're just, I don't have anybody that I can consistently look to for production. And I kind of think Cassius Marsh going into week 1 is going to be our best defensive lineman because Jaron Reed's going to be suspended.
He's better than Ziggy Ansah? Like we think that?
I don't know if we're going to have Ziggy Ansah on the field week 1.
We'll have Ziggy Ansah on the field week 1.
Okay.
I mean, just listening to him talk, I mean, they're saying that everything is structurally healed. He's just working on building strength back up in the shoulder. Like you're telling me between when I heard that, what was that, 2 weeks ago? And, the beginning of the season, right around September, like Ziggy Ansah can't put on a little strength in his shoulder enough to play? That seems far-fetched to me. Also, I mean, there's a possibility LJ Collier is back at that point, but it is awfully disappointing that he's going to miss a significant amount of time, it sounds like, with some ankle injury.
I know. It kind of feels like the Rashad Penny situation of last year, where getting injured in the preseason, and then you kind of get... It feels like they've never really gotten into the flow of things through the preseason, and then they're kind of forced to work their way in during the regular season.
Right. Yeah. There was an article I read just this morning, and they were talking about how many rookie seasons have been lost to ankle injuries, whether that's been Thomas Rawls or Chris Carson or Jermaine Ifedi or, now LJ Collier. It's like, gosh dang it. Like why? How is it that always every single year it seems like our first couple draft picks like are a little dinged up and like don't produce for a whole year?
Why do we don't need redshirt freshman seasons this is professional football. That's a college thing.
Right. Exactly. We're kind of hoping on you guys right meow.
Right.
Okay. Not next year. Marquise Blair, I would like to see you out there too. But again, nowhere to be found.
Yeah, apparently a high ankle sprain for LJ Collier. And I feel like it's karma for the AJ Green thing. Like any Seahawks fan who is looking at AJ Green going down and going, oh, well, we won't have to go up against Green in week 1 against the Bengals. That's great news. It's in football karma. Now they've smote those people who have just dared to think that.
They were smited for thinking that?
Smooted. I don't know.
Smooted.
What's the proper past tense verbiage for smiting?
I don't know. It feels like smited.
Could
yeah,
be.
That feels right to me. But so I guess I'm part of the problem there, because when I heard the AJ Green news, this is exactly my thought process. Man, that really sucks. Oh, don't we play them week 1? Yeah. Oh, okay.
And that's when it was in the cards for LJ Collier to go down to an ankle injury. That's what happened.
But I didn't speak it into existence. I just thought it.
It was a collective mind thinking of all Seahawks fans. And because that's such bad karma, we've now been rewarded negatively.
Well, the good news is we won't have to face AJ Green week 1. And that makes me feel a little better, because when you talk about 2019 expectations, the group that I am the most worried about by far on this entire team is the DBs.
Really?
Like, I don't know what we're going to get. I really don't. Shaq Griffin had either a step back or a mediocre year at best last year. You don't hear a lot of reports from camp about how he's stepping it up or anything like that. Trey Flowers played pretty well as a rookie last year. You're kind of hoping to hear those reports coming out of camp of, oh, second year, Trey's got the system down and he's really stepping it up and he's just sticky out there in coverage. You can't shake him. And you're not hearing anything about, oh, Bradley McDougall, just, taking over in the defensive secondary and just really leading the group. Or, basically the only guy you've ever heard anything about this whole offseason so far is Tedrick Thompson, like basically breaking up one pass throughout practice.
Okay, that's a little bit concerning to me that even with all the draft picks and guys that have come up through the past, that Tedrick Thompson is still the potential starter week 1 for the defensive backs, free safety. And I don't think I like that.
I'm uncertain. Like, I can't say that I dislike that. I mean, he did show flashes of being a very productive player, and then also showed some flashes of being a liability.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I mean, and that's part of the growing pains of bringing up a young secondary, and I get that. But that's the position group I look at, and I'm definitely the most worried about. That's why I think the signing of Deshaun Shedd is a very sneaky good signing for the Seahawks. I mean, a guy that we know, I've seen it with my own two eyes, can be a productive starter. And that in the defensive backfield. Now, granted, they have him listed at safety right now.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I know he can play corner too.
He did. The entire 2016 season. And he was outstanding opposite Richard Sherman that year.
Correct.
And it was a huge bummer when he went down in that Falcons game and never really made it back with the ACL injury until the very end of the season. So, and then it sounded like the Seahawks brought him in last year. Pete Carroll was saying how the last time he saw him, he just wasn't the same 2016 Deshaun Shedd. And then when he brought him back this year and they ultimately signed him, he saw the flashes of what he remembered Shedd being. So from an optimistic point, I like the signing. It's a veteran minimum signing. He fits your system. He has that versatility in the past of playing safety, playing corner, also playing special teams. So I like that signing a lot. And it could also end up being that one veteran guy that they end up cutting down right at the end of the 53-man roster cuts.
Yeah, it absolutely could end up like that. It's going to be really interesting to see how that group shakes out. With saying that the defensive backs are the guys that I'm worried about the most, you also have to factor in the idea that Pete Carroll is amazing at developing corners.
That's why I'm not as concerned about it, because it feels like he has every year he coaches guys up at that position. Look at Trey Flowers,
right.
Going from switching from safety to corner and then being able to play an entire season starting on that right side.
So basically, you look at this defense and you look at it last year, and they ranked 11th in points per game, which I don't know if you know this, Brandon, but that's pretty good.
It's
11th is pretty good.
It's pretty good, but it's about as bad as they've done in the past.
Right. And everybody points to like DVOA and, yards per game and all that garbage. The only thing I care about my defense is how few points they give up.
Because how do you decide the winner of the game? Points.
Right.
It's usually points.
So that's a defense. Everybody, as I'm listening to the national perspective on this, talk about what a dumpster fire the defense was last year, and then they lost Earl Thomas, and then they lost Frank Clark, and it's going to be even a bigger dumpster fire. It's like, well, you're not taking into account that, the defense has been pretty steady throughout the Pete Carroll era, no matter who's been in and out. And we lost Earl Thomas early in the year and still managed to finish 11th in points per game. And, sure, Ziggy Ansah, not Frank Clark, but he can be 85% of Frank Clark. I mean, we could easily make it by doing that.
Yeah.
My biggest bummer is just Jaron Reed being suspended.
Right.
Yeah. So that's frustrating. But other than that, this defense is returning the majority of the players that ranked 11th in points per game last year. A lot of players with more experience going into this year. And yet somehow this defense is demonstrably worse. And it's like the DBs are literally rated the worst in the entire NFL.
I don't know I thought it was the lowest three. Was it rated the worst?
The worst.
By whose account was that one?
I don't know. It was one of the NFL.com guys.
Oh, okay. I think it was an ESPN guy that I saw put him in the bottom three.
Am I saying that they're, a top 10 defensive back unit? No, but they're not an abject dumpster fire.
They should be okay.
They'll be fine. It's just how much that the whole national media focuses on, brand names. And everybody just sees Earl Thomas leaving in the offseason. And it's a lot like the previous season when Richard Sherman left, Cam got hurt, Cliff got hurt, and we lost all those guys. The season before that, halfway through the season, played a whole half of a season without him and we're fine. And yet everybody going into the following season looked at that and was like, oh, they lost all these guys. How could they possibly ever replace them? Well, we saw how they do it. Because we saw half a season of them replacing it. It's a lot like this with Earl Thomas. We lose him early on in the year, and everybody's like, oh, he's gone. They're going to be trash. Well, we saw them actually do okay without him.
Although he did still finish the season leading the team in interceptions.
I'm not saying it was perfect, Just saying they did fine.
I do wonder where the turnovers are going to come from. And with the defensive line, Frank Clark was such a big part of that, forcing fumbles. Yeah, Jaron Reed with the sacks up the middle. You lose him for 6 games. You're counting on the linebackers. And fortunately, it seems like this team has more linebackers than it knows what to do with, because you have Bobby Wagner, you have KJ Wright coming back, you have Michael Kendricks, who doesn't look like he's going to be suspended anytime soon. You have Cody Barton, who's apparently the standout rookie out of all rookies at training camp so far. And then you have Shaquem Griffin, you have Ben Burke-Irvin, who they drafted this year. And
Mingo still?
They still have Barkevious Mingo. Jacob Martin is listed as a linebacker for whatever reason. And I kind of wonder, is this a 3-4 defense? Should they go to that? It just seems like they have way too many linebackers and not enough defensive linemen at this point.
Yeah, they're definitely, more talented in the linebacker group than any other spot on the defense. And look, I mean, this defense is going to revolve around them. Now, I think that in the long term, as far as this season's concerned, I've gone through seasons where KJ Wright misses 6-7 games. I've gone through time where Bobby misses a couple games. Like, that happens. So having that amount of depth going through the year, I think, is going to be just key for this team. Especially
when you consider the Bobby and KJ getting up there and having injuries. Yeah, we've seen that. I don't even like the fact that you're bringing that up, but maybe the fact that we are bringing it up, it's a good thing. Like, it won't happen because we've talked about it.
Reverse jinx, dude.
Right.
Yeah, get on board. But Bobby signs his new contract. That was cool. I'm sure you talked about that. You talked about that with
Michael Dugar on field goals. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I didn't listen to the show, but were you guys excited?
Yeah. Bobby Wagner, I don't know if you've heard, but he's okay.
Yeah. Well, apparently not okay enough, because a guy that is the best inside linebacker in football can't crack the top 10 in the NFL top 100 too. So I
thought that he would be a guy for sure to crack the top 10.
Well, he was above Luke Kuechly, but
by a pretty significant amount too.
Yeah. But as an FU to the Seahawks, because every year, like, the NFL has to give the Seahawks an FU on the NFL top 100 list with Luke Kuechly. Like, that's the guy they give the FU with. They put Luke Kuechly a spot ahead of Russell Wilson.
Because when I go down the list and I think, who would I worry about more in the NFL if I had to play against him? Luke Kuechly immediately comes to mind over Russell Wilson.
That's the thing. I was looking at that list of players, that were ranked above Russell Wilson, like Stephon Gilmore at 22. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, really?
I've given up trying to figure out how they do those lists. So it's been a really easy process. So for any of you who have tried logically working and thinking your way through the NFL top 100 list, just stop. It's not worth it. It's not worth the time. Don't try to rationalize it. Just move on. Be happy for the fact that Russell Wilson was in the top 25 for the 6th year in a row, and keep moving.
Well, here's the thing that I find super interesting is that last year Russell was ranked 11, right?
Yeah.
And this year he threw for the most touchdowns ever in his career, was his most efficient. Like, didn't have to scramble for his life. Like, this, I feel like this was the year where people started to really recognize him as the thrower of the football that he is.
Yeah.
Just the raw arm talent. Like, his duel with Mahomes, like, really showed that off, right? Yeah. So, and he's not scrambling around for his life. He's not having to carry the entire offensive load. Like everybody had been banging on him about for the years previous. He runs around too much. It's all about him in the offense. All that crap. And so he stays in the pocket for the majority of the year because the offensive line actually improved, throws more touchdowns than ever, and then drops 14 spots.
The only way I can rationalize that part of it is because the year before, it was such a big talking point in the media, and NFL players are just as susceptible to what gets said in national media as anybody else. Because Russell Wilson was, 98% of the Seahawks offense? They had one rushing touchdown from the running backs, and it was the entire Russell Wilson show, which is what led him to be number 11 on the list that year.
Yeah, I get that, but come on, man.
I know he was better last year and he went down. That part doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole is, but that kind of does bring us to the offense. I mean, I guess to wrap up expectations on the defense, like, where do you see them finishing as far as, say, points per game? Like, what rankish do you see them at?
Because offense does play into it, I think they are going to finish middle of the pack. Now, if the Seahawks, if people start coming out and getting ahead of them early on, and that forces Russell Wilson to match teams score for score, they get away from running the ball so much. I think they can still match teams score for score, but that could run up the score on the defense. And that's where I get a little bit concerned. You know, having those shootout games like they did against the Chiefs last year, are we going to see the team get into more of those and less where the Seahawks are dictating to the opponent by running the ball and really keeping the score low, which is, I think, how Pete Carroll likes to play. You know, we've watched this enough over the past few seasons that's kind of our understanding of what Pete Carroll and Brian Schottenheimer are going to do.
Yeah, I think you summed that up really well, actually, because I keep hearing in the national media, well, they made Russell Wilson the highest paid man in the entire NFL. They're going to have to open up the playbook and start airing it out, and they're going to have to score 35 points. It's going to be all about Russell, and that's the only way that this team can win. Bullshit, fish! Like, let me put it together a different game plan for you that seems to fit the way that the head coach thinks. You run the holy hell out of the football. You just absolutely dominate time of possession. You keep turnovers low. You keep that defense off the field, and you still score as efficiently as an offense, but you do it through the running game, and you're more methodical about it. Everybody seems to think in today's day and age in the NFL that running the ball is like a sin. And it's because of all these analytic dopes out there that seem to think that if you run the football, somehow now your offense is complete and utter garbage. And it's people that don't understand football. They don't understand that this game is one in the trenches. They don't understand that when you run the football with efficiency, you demoralize the other team. You keep the ball out of their high-flying offense's hand, and you have a better chance to be within a score in the fourth quarter. Then you put it in the hands of your quarterback, who's the highest-paid guy in the NFL, and a fourth-quarter catfishing magician, and you win a bunch of games, and you go to the playoffs like you do every year. Now, call me crazy, but that formula has seemed to work. And if anything, I see them playing even more strongly to that with Chris Carson and a healthy Rashad Penny.
It does seem to work. Now, on a personal level, I don't like it. Like I like winning. I do know that much, because winning is better than losing was something that we've established multiple times over the years.
Right. I'm glad you haven't changed your opinion on that the winning is better than the losing.
I haven't changed my opinion on that. But I would rather be up 2 scores at the end of the first quarter. And Pete Carroll would rather be down 3 in the fourth quarter as long as the Seahawks have the ball last.
Well, I don't need them to, dog it for an entire half or like dog it in the first and third quarters like they generally do. Like, I don't need them to do that.
Yeah.
But you do just keep the game close. Keep the game close. And look, all this hype this offseason about some of the offensive rookies. I mean, good God, if I have to read another article about how DK Metcalf made a catch in practice.
Diving catch. Diving.
Sometimes diving. Sometimes it's just a catch.
Right.
It's like he makes a catch. It's a 200-word essay. Like, I mean, congratulations. The man made a catch in practice. Cool. Like, and that's fine. Like, I'm excited about DK Metcalf, I guess. Like, it's going to take him time. Like, I'm just not expecting him this year to be a major contributor. A lot like I was frustrated as all get out about the Rashad Penny pick last year, because he's coming in the league and he clearly wasn't ready, and he got hurt and didn't really contribute. That's why this year, instead of being all sorts of excited about DK Metcalf being the steal of the draft, you know who am I excited about? Rashad Penny, a guy who spent the entire offseason working on his body, came in better shape than ever, was working out with Marshall Faulk. Like, you got Chris Carson sitting there being like, yeah, man, he's every bit as good as me. And this would be the year that I'm looking for Rashad Penny to actually put it together with Chris Carson and having really a backfield that is unstoppable behind an offensive line that is pretty much the same from the previous season, except for you swap out Ayupati for Sweezy, and I think that's a lateral move.
Yeah, it's a wash.
So they're going to run the piss out of the ball, and they're going to start doing it in week 1 rather than week 4, and it's going to be better for our deal.
Yeah, Clinton Bonner and I were talking on the Field Goals podcast and bringing up the question of who is going to be the star at running back this year. And I don't know if we really came to a consensus. I mean, we both still feel like Chris Carson is the straw that stirs the drink for the Seahawks because he brings that level of toughness and, you pound the ball inside. That's what the team likes to do. Bring that physicality. You haven't seen that so much from Rashad Penny, but he has kind of you have that thunder and lightning component in the backfield with those two now, something we haven't really seen with the Seahawks in previous years until now. So I'm really curious, and it almost makes me wonder. I kind of feel like they're going to run the ball more this year than they did last year.
Well, only because they'll start doing it earlier in the season. I think they'll run it with at the same percentage they did starting about week 4.
But the other thing is, too, that we talked about, and it came up in my talk with Oscar with the 49ers, is that the Seahawks last year, their 3-and-out percentage was really, really high.
Yeah.
If they can get away from that, you can start to see them do a little more on offense, too, because how many times did you hear from Pete Carroll last year that, especially in the losses, it was because of those 3-and-outs, and we never really got going. We never got to get to what we wanted to do on the offense. And if they can fix that, because they have now another year on offensive line where the guys are working together, this feels like going back to 2013. The most that the offensive unit on offensive line has been together, and now they have experience, whereas going into almost every other season, it's like, we're throwing new guys together and it's a whole new group.
Right. And the offensive line is the one thing that gives me a little optimism, which is weird to say as a Seahawks fan, on the offensive side of the ball, especially.
It's been so long that we haven't been able to say that.
Yeah. Well, especially on third downs. Like, this is where my biggest concern on the offense is this year, is clutchy third downs.
Yeah.
Who's converting those? Because that, out of all the losses this offseason, the loss of Doug Baldwin is probably the one that I look at and go, oh, God, like, what exactly were we going to do there? And that's not a knock on Tyler Lockett. I mean, he's phenomenal.
I've thought a lot about this, and it's going to be Tyler Lockett. That's who Russell Wilson has the most comfort with. That's who, now, he might not be going to him those downfield routes, but Russell and Tyler, they have the experience of when plays start to break down, now that I think they know what one another's going to do, and Tyler's going to be the guy getting those footballs.
Not going to be Uncle Will?
No, he's going to have his opportunities.
Yeah, I'm super excited about Will Disley coming back this year.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys I'm very high on. They talk a little bit about tight end by committee so far this offseason, and I think he's going to come back, and he's going to be very healthy. He's going to be ready to go, and he's going to take control of that position over George Fant.
They have a wealth of tight ends opportunities here, because you bring up George Fant, but you have Nick Vannett coming back. You have the veteran Ed Dixon coming back. You have Jacob Hollister, who they traded for with the Patriots, who apparently the team really likes. I'm kind of curious to see where they go here. Fant may end up being an offensive lineman.
Oh, you mean still? Like, yeah, I enjoyed it when they brought him in as an extra offensive lineman, and it was something that was a big advantage for the Seahawks going through the end of the season when they started employing George Fant that way. I'll be interested to see what the adjustment from the league is this year.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do when you see George Fant trot out onto the field? You throw another defensive tackle out there? Like, where are you going to have a shift to that side? Like, I'm just curious to see what the league's response to that is.
Yeah. You never really saw much of a response, and that's something that, even going back to Marshawn Lynch in 2013, 2014, they would trot out a sixth offensive lineman and do things like that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like you don't really see those adjustments on defense to where they bring in bigger dudes to combat that on the offensive line.
Yeah, and it'll be, like I said, I'm very curious as to where they go with that.
I don't think they'll do anything because I think most teams are okay giving up 5 yards per carry if they have to.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? And that's another reason why I like this offense going into this season is the Seahawks are zigging when everybody else is zagging. I mean, they're committing to this run-first approach, which only Baltimore does as well. It's basically us and them. And then everybody else is just, airing it out 50 times a game.
Carolina, I might put Carolina in that group. Denver.
No.
No?
No. Definitely not. Like Carolina runs their offense through McCaffrey, that's for sure. But it's all dink and dunk passing.
But willing to go the short yardage with the running backs, whether it's running or passing.
Well, when you pass the ball, then you don't run the ball. I don't know if you understand that. Like, and we're talking about running the ball.
It through the running back. They have a unique running back who has the skill set to be a really good pass catcher too.
Right. Catching passes. I'm talking about teams that run the ball. Do you understand the difference where like the quarterback takes a snap, he goes hike, and then he gets the ball and he turns around and he literally takes it from his hand and hands it to the other guy. Like there's no airtime in there. Like that, which that would then make it a pass.
Is it really?
And I'm talking about teams that don't do that. The ones that have the airtime from the quarterback to the guy that takes the ball.
So if it's still going to the running back, but you're handing it to him versus like just throwing it up in the air for just a little bit, like that's totally unique and different things in the offense.
Well, one's passing and one's running.
It's still going to the same guy. It's still going to the running back.
Yeah, and they're still different plays. It's a true fact. You can't. I don't know that there's any way to argue that.
I'm not arguing against you. I'm just saying.
Okay.
They're very
it's
similar.
Baltimore and us. That's it. Carolina doesn't count with their passes. No.
Just trying to be clear here.
And they're not going to run Cam Newton this year.
They're probably done with that.
Yeah.
He's getting old.
Well, yeah. And you can't just take that pounding year after year after year and be okay.
No.
Like it's not good for you.
Even when you're 6'5".
Yeah, you end up missing a lot of time, maybe even an entire season like Andrew Luck, who somehow was 5 spots ahead of Russell Wilson on the top 100.
Why do you keep going back to the top 100?
That
does
one
not
pisses
matter.
me off. That one pisses me off.
I'm kind of to the point now with Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson. Like as Seahawks fans, we know. But nationally, I feel like they're getting to the point where they're interchangeable. On some lists, sometimes you have Andrew Luck a little bit ahead. On other lists, you have Russell Wilson a little bit ahead. And I think that's okay.
No, it's not okay. And I'll tell you exactly why it's not okay. If you're redrafting 2012 right now,
yeah,
if you're redoing that right now, and you're the Indianapolis Colts, and you have the number 1 pick, who you picking?
Some people are still going to pick Andrew Luck first, and there's other teams that are going to pick Russell Wilson first. I think
knowing what we know now.
I guess it depends on what you're taking in account. Does Andrew Luck still get injured all those times that he got injured?
Yes, because that's what happens. Because that's the biggest difference between Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck. He's missed seasons, like an entire season.
Sure, yeah.
Like in multiple games in other seasons. Russell never misses a game. Like right there is the complete difference between those two players.
You're still going to have teams, if you did a redraft, where other teams are going to say, I still want Andrew Luck first because I want to have that type of offense where you primarily have a pocket passer.
Well, then they are still dumbasses.
Pete Prisco's doing it. Even though he's come up on Russell Wilson and kind of elevated him, he's still taking Andrew Luck first.
Pete's been throwing curveballs, man. I don't know what to expect out of him no more.
Things have changed. It's a whole new world from last season to this season after Pete Prisco started talking up Russell Wilson.
So we both agree this season the Seahawks are still going to run the hell out of the ball. Tyler Lockett's your third down guy.
Tyler Lockett's your go-to guy.
Yeah.
I would expect to see him over 1,000 yards this year. That's not something that you see from Seahawks wide receivers very often. I think the biggest question is who's going to be number 2? Is it going to be Jerron Brown? Is it going to be DK Metcalf? Is it going to be David Moore?
Well, the team certainly is selling Jerron Brown as the potential new number 2.
Brian Schottenheimer is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of, we just didn't use him. Just didn't use him.
Well, he kind of feels Jermaine Kearse-ish.
Sure.
Which he was playing in that number 2 role.
Yeah, no, that would be fine. I'm just saying, like, every year the team starts, selling a guy. Like, oh, that's the guy. And that's how I'm feeling about Jerron Brown this year.
Why do you think they're selling him? Just because he did everything right and everything that he was asked to do last season and wasn't out there complaining, and he just kind of that consistent guy?
When the media has a question about what's going to happen with the wide receivers, you better damn well have an answer. And I think they all sat down and were like, all right, let's all say Jerron Brown's awesome.
You know what? I can't argue with that. That's probably what happened.
And then one intern in the back was like, hey, Pete, what about DK Metcalf? Shut up. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the end of the conversation.
I am really curious to see what happens with these rookies, because I feel like you have 3 spots locked up because they are selling Jerron Brown so hard. Mm-hmm. Lockett, Brown, DK Metcalf. Feel like you have to lock those 3 in.
No, not Greg Jennings.
I don't know if you lock him in. Based on...
Or Gary Jennings. He's one of the Jennings.
Yeah.
With a G.
Gary Jennings.
Yeah.
Not Greg.
Yeah. Sorry. Those are very close names.
Greg's the one that puts the team on his back.
I don't know. I didn't see an article after it, but I did see one highlight where Gary Jennings caught a pass down the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't write a whole article about it, but yeah, he made a catch in practice.
I think he burned the corner pretty badly, too.
Isn't it hard to watch some of those training camp highlights? Like... let's say the DB makes an amazing play and you're like, oh, receivers suck. And then the receiver makes an amazing play and you're like, oh, maybe our DBs suck. It's very hard.
You don't know who sucks and who's good.
It's a very conflicting feeling. I imagine it's how a lot of people feel like when they play fantasy football and they don't have a Seahawks, they have somebody going against the Seahawks or whatever.
Like they have Ezekiel Elliott, but they have the Eagles defense.
Right.
And then so you're in that no-win situation.
Yeah, but that's how I feel at training camp. So overall, Brandon,
okay,
do you think that the Seattle offense is going to be, say, I don't know, tied for 6th like they were last year in points per game? Because wait a second, and I didn't know if you knew this. If you run the ball predominantly, you are not an explosive offense, and you don't score points. You score like 14 points a game. That's what the national media will tell you. Turns out that if you run the ball predominantly, you end up scoring 26.8 points per game and are a top 10 offense.
This is where it comes in to points once again. It's better to score points because points help you win.
Right.
I don't care how they get there. Really, to the points per game, if they're running the ball, if they're throwing the ball, as long as they're scoring points and end up having more points than the other team, this is a good thing for me. And I know that's really basic analysis, but I also feel like
people overthink this shit.
Catfish. Well, they did. Well, and I think you just talked about fantasy. It's because fantasy does play a big part in this, and yards play a big part in this too. Again, go back to the top 100. Russell Wilson he didn't have as many yards throwing the football last year. Right. So I think even in the minds of NFL players, they look at that and go, oh, well, he's not a volume passer. So at least not to the point of Drew Brees and Phil Rivers and Matthew Stafford, Matt Ryan.
I want to do one of those "The More You Know" commercials. Remember those on NBC? With the stars and everything. Like the star would come across the screen. The more you know, and it's just going to be yards don't matter.
Yards.
That's going to be the entire freaking commercial.
Points matter.
Points matter. Turnovers matter. Yards don't matter.
Russell Wilson doesn't turn the ball over either.
That's kind of a good thing when you're thinking about the defense being maybe that. I think you hit it right on the head with the defense being that I don't know where the turnovers are going to come from. So I don't see that being a huge part of their game.
That just makes it more important to limit the turnovers on the offensive side of the ball, right?
Exactly.
Because especially with the way that Pete Carroll and Brian Schottenheimer have done this in the past, they're really looking for fewer offensive possessions than more. You don't see games where the Seahawks have upwards of 10, 11, 12 possessions. It's usually, 9, 10. It's on the lower end.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they like it.
It's how they like it. The one thing about playing that way is you have less of a margin for error.
Right.
You
see that because so many of those games last season, Russell Wilson had the ball, had an opportunity in the fourth quarter to go down the field and score and win the game. And there were probably 3 or 4 games where they were in that position and it didn't happen. Both of the Rams games, they were in that opportunity. They had that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And
those games can flip year to year, right?
They can. They can also flip negatively toward.
Overall, during the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson era, in close games, I don't know what the stat is, but my gut tells me that they're better in those games than most teams.
Well, because they've come out on the winning side of, they've been in the playoffs more than they haven't.
That's what I'm saying.
They only missed the playoffs once, so.
Right. So, and that doesn't feel fluky, once a coincidence, twice is a trend.
We're definitely on the side of trends after, since going to the playoffs since 2012 and missing the playoffs once since 2012.
Yeah. It seems like that it's a consistent thing you can hang your hat on, the Seahawks winning those tight games down the stretch.
Well, we haven't talked about special teams, and it's
Ooh, I'm excited about special teams.
Tyler Ott re-signed. You brought up the Bobby Wagner re-signing, but Tyler Ott, they've got him locked up now.
Right. Is he sticking with 69 or is he going double zeros?
I think he's probably got to stick. I think it's against league rules to go with the double zeros. Unfortunately.
Since when?
Well,
you used to be able to do it.
When have you seen a dude with double zeros?
I don't know. In old Raiders highlights.
Yeah, old.
I know. Why did they need to amend the rule for Tyler Ott? He needs double Ott.
That would make sense, especially with the naming convention.
Exactly. It is nice to have continuity at the long snapper position. That's a reason to be excited. Another reason to be excited is the young kicker, Myers.
Yeah.
I think he's an upgrade over Janikowski last year at that point in his career.
I don't know if he's going to be as good as he was with the Jets last year. I don't know if we'll have a Pro Bowl season like the Jets got out of him last season.
Just needs to be good, right?
He just needs to be okay.
Yeah.
He needs to be better than Blair Walsh. And
done. He already is. He managed to sign his name in the right spot on the contract.
Yeah. And Janikowski last year, if he can manage to actually not just allow
not get hurt when he sneezes.
Right. We should be okay.
Yeah. It's a massive upgrade at the kicker position this year. This is the best I've felt since House Money left.
And you have year 2 of Michael Dixon.
And now there's a reason to be excited, right? Yeah. He's a guy that totally changed the way that a lot of people viewed punters.
And apparently he was mad about what kind of season he had last year.
Yeah. He's got more to give. That's what I'm saying. He's going to make the leap this year.
How do you get to the end of your rookie season and you go, I made the Pro Bowl, but I could really do better. I felt like I left something out there that I need to bring to this upcoming season. Sure, his drop kick, onside kicks never worked.
No.
But I think really that's my only criticism of Michael Dixon.
Well, my criticism is learn to kick field goals in case the field goal kicker's hurt.
Yes.
I'm still baffled as to why that's so hard if you're a professional kicker. I don't get it.
I think he can do it.
I know he can.
And I have heard that he's working on it too.
Okay, good. So that'd be my one critique. But he's going to have some stuff that he pulls out of the bag this year, I think, that's going to be a lot of fun. And really the biggest thing with special teams going forward this year is all these guys that they drafted in these last 2 draft class, all good special teams performers. And if you can take the third phase of the game and really elevate that, because that was an area that needed improvement last year. And it got a little better, and I expect it to get another level again better this year. And at that point, that makes a big difference in your year.
I wish they would find somebody in the preseason. Going into the preseason, that's going to be one of the things I watch. Can they find somebody else to return punts other than Tyler Lockett? And so far, it doesn't sound like they have a beat on anybody yet.
Yeah, Brian Schneider was asked about it, the special teams coordinator. And he's like, I'm still using Tyler for as long as they let me use Tyler.
Until coach tells me not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and the other thing that Brian Schneider said that I found, Brian Schneider's a really hard name to remember in Seahawks, pantheon of players and GMs and stuff, because you got John Schneider and Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah, it's not confusing at all.
It's not confusing at all.
Brian Schneider has been there since Pete came up from USC.
I know, but it's still hard.
You should have it figured out by now.
Right. Well, I did. I haven't screwed it up yet. I'll just say it can be difficult. But Brian Schneider, he brought up the idea that there's 6 phases of football. 6 phases of the game.
Yeah, he said that, and I was trying to work my head around what he meant by that.
Yeah, so I actually Googled that too. You know what came up? Jack shit. I don't know.
You don't know what the 6 phases are?
I don't know what this. I always thought there were 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah.
So the only thing I could sit there and think about was,
could you break it up?
Maybe it's
pass offense, run offense, pass defense, run defense.
That's 4.
Special teams, punting, special teams,
and kicking,
or kicking and returning. If you split up special teams.
Oh, there you go. That might be the way they. Yeah, that might be it.
6 phases.
It's the first time I've ever heard that.
I didn't bother Googling it, but it definitely jumped out at me, and I was like, huh. Somebody should follow up on that.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. There's going to be people in the YouTube comments that are like, if you dumbasses don't know what the 6 phases of football are, why do you have a podcast?
Oh, it's funny because it's true. That's exactly what's going to happen.
You know it is. I don't know.
Yeah, because we've only been watching football for 20 years, and nobody on any TV broadcast has ever, it's never jumped out at us that there's 6 phases of football.
My response to that would be, well, if it's so damn obvious, how come Troy Aikman and Joe Buck haven't brought it up on a broadcast yet? Yeah. Because they bring up all the obvious catfish. You think I would have heard it there? I hope that somebody writes a spoof comment, like it just makes up like really funny 6 phases of football.
I want to hear the best 6 phases of football.
Right. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because
I was just confused by it.
I was too. But you know what? Where you're willing to admit your ignorance, like I think to myself, oh yeah, maybe that is obvious, and I don't know.
I'm fine not knowing stuff. The older I get, the more I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is hard.
Life is hard. But the season's not going to be as hard as everybody thinks, because everybody's already penciling in the Rams for 49 wins, and the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl, and the Cardinals are going to be better because they have a frat boy coach and a guy who plays collegiate quarterback. It's going to be great.
I don't know what to think about the Cardinals and where they're going to go. That's probably the biggest question mark for me.
Is it?
Well, they're probably maybe. What do you think their ceiling is as far as wins?
3 wins.
That's ceiling?
Yes. Rookie quarterback, rookie head coach. Not only that, a rookie head coach that couldn't win in college. A defense that's minus Patrick Peterson for a lot of the year. And they're going to get more than 3 wins? Who are they bribing?
I still think their ceiling is about 5 or 6.
Well, that's interesting.
Like if things go really well for them.
That's 2 to 3 games too many.
I think it was USA Today that had the most interesting prediction for the NFC West. San Francisco 49ers at 10-6, LA Rams and Seattle Seahawks both at 9-7 and missing the playoffs. And then they're with you on Arizona 3-13.
I keep hearing 8-8 thrown out a lot for the Seahawks, which I'm not exactly sure how you get there, but okay.
They were 7-9 with Tavares Jackson.
Right.
Or Tavares, if you want to pronounce his name correctly.
Yeah, exactly. See, you're learning.
I get it eventually. I hear it out
He's
loud in my ears.
He's not even in the league anymore. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, he probably doesn't care.
No, he doesn't care. But yeah, it's I feel like this division is wide open as far as our opportunity to go ahead and take it back from the Rams. I mean, they lost a lot of key players. Todd Gurley's, got grandma knees. And they're relying on Eric Weddle to hold it all together. That's going to be cool.
I think it's going to be close, though. See, you made a mistake last year with your bet with the Rams fans, because this would be the year to say that the Seahawks will win the division over the Rams, because I do think it's going to be within a game or two.
Because it was within 2 games last year.
Yeah. I think both teams are probably going to be right around 11-5.
Yeah. Yeah. 10-6, 11-5.
Yeah, with the Seahawks being 11-5.
Yeah. Or 10-6 and the Rams with less.
I don't know. I don't know if I like a 10-win team.
I don't know. And then I got to read some really cool 49ers articles while I was down in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah? They're hyped about that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they're going to be world beaters again this year.
Yeah.
So much talent.
They do have a talented... They have the envy of the division in terms of defensive line.
We're sure about that?
Yeah. Yeah, they got the best... They have the best defensive line in the division.
Okay, so D Ford and who?
Bosa. And
are we sure he's good?
He could be good.
We don't know.
You got Solomon Thomas,
who's been average.
Who's the other one that's really good?
DeForest Buckner.
DeForest Buckner, yeah,
and he's okay. I don't see them as the envy of. Well, I guess of the division, maybe. Yeah, I guess
at least 3 of those guys. I think I would take over anybody we have on our defensive line.
Over Jaron Reed.
Yeah, I would take Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, and D Ford over Jaron Reed.
Wow. Because I'm not ready to put Bosa above anybody because he hasn't played a catfish snap. All right.
Yeah.
And
I understand that. I think he's going to be good.
Well, that's a nice thought. Let's find out first before you're putting him over a guy who's established in the league.
No, I'm saying if somebody came to me and said you could have Bosa over Jaron Reed right now, I would say okay.
You would
right now if I had to make a decision right now based on what I know right now. Is that based on
Jaron Reed's suspension or just overall
everything? Factor in everything.
For how many years do you have both of them? Like if you were to do this imaginary swap.
Well,
I'm just trying to figure out a way to where I would say yes to this.
Bosa's on his rookie deal right now, and Reed's on the last year of his contract.
Yeah,
I don't think I need to make up any terms. Let's just take it as is.
Don't bother me with your facts, logic, and reason, Brandon. Okay, that part you might get beyond the financials of it.
Yeah,
but boy, it's hard to give up on a guy who had 10.5 sacks up the middle. Man, interior pressure is everything in the NFL. Everybody talks about the edge defenders. I don't give a rip. Like, you can find guys who are twitchy and can get around the edge almost anywhere. Like, the guys that can create pressure up the middle, now that's special.
Well,
that's why Aaron Donald's number 1 on the top 100.
And that's why I would maybe hesitate by saying that there's no question of whether the 49ers have the best defensive line, because the Rams have Aaron Donald on their defensive line. And I think you could just put regular dudes around Aaron Donald and still have a really good defensive line.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking when you were talking about the 49ers having the division. But what the 49ers also have is a quarterback that's made out of bubble gum and duct tape.
The health of Jimmy Garoppolo it's going to be the biggest question for that team.
I don't want to hear crap about the 49ers until Jimmy G plays an entire season. I don't want to hear about it.
How about half a season?
Well, that would be an improvement.
Let's wait till week 8 and see where they're at.
I think they're an unbelievably overhyped team.
Yeah.
Yet again, somehow. Why does everybody believe in that team more than the Seahawks? For like the last 3 years.
I can't put my finger on it. Why is it?
I don't know.
Is it because they have John Lynch?
I guess. It's really Kyle Shanahan. That's really what I think it is. People seem to think the sun shines right out of his butt every day when he wakes up. Like people love him almost as much as they love Pretty Boy Sean.
He has taken an offense to the Super Bowl.
Sure. Yeah. But as an assistant.
Darrell Bevell did that too.
And won one.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many Super Bowls has Kyle Shanahan won as a coordinator?
I think 0. I think it's still 0.
0. Interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, he's a genius.
He has as many almost as Darrell Bevell has.
No, I think that's what it all boils down to. Everybody just loves them some Kyle Shanahan.
I love me some George Kittle.
Sure. Their receiving core is terrible. They're worse than ours. Their DBs are terrible too.
Worse than ours?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Niners aren't good. Everybody relax.
All right, dude. Well, what do you say we get to the second half of the show? And
dude, we could, but you got to finish your expectations for the year.
Oh.
What record do you give the Seattle Seahawks, the 2019 Seattle Seahawks? How could you move the second half of the show without making a proclamation towards their record on an expectation show?
I did. I thought I said 11-5.
Oh, okay. All right. I think 12-4.
Really?
Yeah, they're better this year than last year.
That's one more game than me. And
I know. Wait, big difference. Big difference. I'm going out on a huge limb because the Rams are going to come back to earth having a Super Bowl hangover. We're going to at least get one or two of those games. We're going to beat the Niners twice instead of losing a game for like no reason. And they're going to start running the ball at the beginning of the year rather than after a quarter of the season's gone.
They start off the season at home rather than on the road for 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of nice.
That is kind of nice.
I think we've come up with good predictions, but I do feel like we're both on the optimistic side. Like, there are bad things that could happen.
Yeah, which we're not going to speak into existence.
Right.
And yeah, it might be a little homerish, but we believe in our damn team. So suck it if you don't like it.
If you don't believe in this team, what are you doing listening to this show?
Yeah, good point.
This is a show for Seahawks fans.
Right.
By a booster club for the team.
Correct. Yeah.
I feel like you should know what you're getting right here.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to the second half of the show.
Okay, now we can.
Okay. Do I have your permission?
Yes.
May we go to the second half of the show?
Ask me again and I'm going to say no.
Okay, I'll stop. And we are getting into the second half of the show, going into our 7th season of doing this, Adam. And I realize now that I keep calling it the second half of the show, but it's not really split into equal halves. And I don't know if that should bother me or not.
Yeah. So you need to math better. Like, should we head into the final third of the show? Is that what you want to say?
If we want to be accurate,
remaining third?
If it bothers you enough for accuracy, based on the consistency that we've built over these previous 6 seasons, it really is only about the final third of the show.
Yeah. Well, don't make no never mind to me.
Do you think our numbers at getintheflock.com would go up if we were more consistent in terms of our math?
No, probably go up if I was more consistent in showing up and doing the podcast.
Well, it's the off season.
It's been, look, man, it's been crazy busy. Crazy busy.
You were crazy busy.
I was just looking at the last 2.5, 3 months. I think it was 2.5 months. I've been home all of 5 days.
That makes it hard to podcast with you when you're not in your podcast studio.
It is. Yeah. It's been a challenge.
I know you have Hawk Mike there that you've brought along with you, but.
Yeah. But even then, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, on the road and working.
It's hard to podcast while you're driving.
Do better.
Okay. I'll invent some new technology then. Then once I start doing better, everybody else can start doing better, and we can get more little flockers to sign up to be in the flock.
And they can go to getintheflock.com, which we did have one new member come up since we got into it last week with the Rams fans.
Didn't even get skunked this week.
Yeah, we had Sander the Kuiper get in the flock at $3 this last week.
Ah, well, awesome. He'll be part of the Pick'em League now.
Yeah.
Since we'll be starting that here shortly yet again, and that's always been a lot of fun.
We do have a tradition of doing the Pick'em League on this show, and I think we're going to go Yahoo this year.
Oh, really? You got broken down finally?
Yeah. Well, last year, we decided to pay for an exclusive service that had all the things that I want and need to be able to administer this thing the right way. Because NFL.com, it has its challenges. We end up with a lot of ties almost every week, so there's no tie-breaking system.
Right.
But Yahoo, they have a tie-breaking system, and I can... one of the cool things about it, we have to decide if we're going to do this. You can drop one of the weeks from the scoring for the final winner. So if somebody goes in and forgets to pick 1 week, you can say, okay, the lowest scoring week doesn't count.
I love it.
I like that too, especially for the final.
Yeah. Yeah, because a team gets a bye week. How come we don't get a bye week?
Or even if you have a week where you just do poorly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It throws out one low week for everybody because every year I know you're going to forget to make your picks 1 week.
It happens.
And it's happened just about every year. It's really the only way that I catch up with you and
pretty much and
actually overtake you.
So, not last year.
You missed you missed a week last year.
Yeah, but I still won.
Oh, I know. That's because I put in your scores.
But I still won.
Yes.
And you lost.
Both
between the two of us.
Really, when you look at it, though, both of us overall were losers.
No, between us two, I'm a winner and you're a loser from last year.
One of us wants
to be
the loser. I'm going to win this year, the entire overall, because it's a Doug Baldwin signed football. Not just a Doug Baldwin signed football, but signed from his rookie year because it's inscribed with the number 15.
That's cool.
That's a pretty good prize from our associate producer, Dustin Mock.
Yeah. I'd seen that there were some Pick'em League name suggestions already for our Pick'em team names.
In previous years, we've usually incorporated a player on the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the idea, though, of going in a different direction and using phrases from football that sound really, really dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't that Lisa who suggested this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my Pick'em League name, I think, is going to be Team Sack.
I can't even remember what that stood for.
Well, it's supposed to be SAQ.
SAQ, that's right.
Yeah, short area quickness.
Short area quickness. Team short area quickness.
Right.
But Team Sack.
I like talking about guys' sacks.
It's important for guys to have good sack scores.
Right. Fast sacks. That's what I'm looking for.
And then I think part of the difficulty is not picking, because according to the Yahoo League rules, you can't have obscene team names.
Why?
I don't know. It's just in their rules.
What a bunch of goody two-shoes over there at Yahoo.
But so if you can get the part of the challenge then is getting up to the edge of obscenity that you still remain in the Pick'em League.
Right.
But
we don't know where that line is.
We don't know where the line is, but we do know that's why I'm saying this is part of the challenge of the league. Like, you want to have a name that sounds dirty, but it's not so obscene that you get kicked out of the league by Yahoo.
Right. I think Team Sack will fly under the radar.
I feel like you're okay there.
Yeah. No wonder Yahoo became like a third-rate service. They're trying to control obscenities on the internet. Good luck with that.
I went ahead and just as a placeholder, because it said, if your Pick'em team name is obscene, we reserve the right to remove you. And so I put in that block, my Pick'em team name is obscene.
How'd that go over?
I'm still in there.
Have you already do we already have the league ready to sign up?
It's close.
Okay.
Should I have it ready by the time I get the show out? We still have a few weeks.
I don't know. What kind of time do you have? Do you need another week? Then no.
Usually I put the redirect at seahawkerspodcast.com/pick'em.
Mm-hmm.
So people can try that. And if it's not there, we'll update you on the next show.
Okay, there we go. There's good compromise.
There's plenty of time. It's like these press conferences in the off season. Like the very first press conference, Pete Carroll comes out for training camp. All the questions were injury questions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about injuries. Like, there's still 6 weeks to go before they play a meaningful game.
Right.
Why in the very first training camp do we need to take up 15 minutes of Pete Carroll's time just asking about injury updates?
Right. Instead of, hey, who's improved?
Yeah, or what are you looking to do on defense? It seems like you have more linebackers than good defensive linemen.
Right.
How are you going to adjust on defense?
Well, that would be a logical question. We don't ask those at press conferences, Brandon. That's not how it works.
I suppose.
Yeah, you throw out just regular, lazy questions to invoke regular lazy answers that we all get to digest, and then write a lazy article about, and create some stupid narrative. That's how we do media in this country.
Well, they're doing it really well.
Yeah, they're crushing it.
I think
they still don't have microphones on the reporters.
I know.
I saw Tim Moon like in the Ring of Honor today. He was mad about we can do all sorts of amazing things, but we can't put mics on reporters still. Can't do it.
I can tell you just from a sound engineering perspective exactly what they do and why it sounds so terrible. They have
the mic in front of, let me guess. Let me see if I can guess right, because you're smarter at this than I am, but this is my guess.
Yeah, okay.
They have the mic in front of whoever is being interviewed, correct?
Right.
And so when it comes time, when a question's asked, they just turn the gain way up on the microphone that's in front of the interviewee to hope to pick up the guy asking the question, and then they turn it back down when you get ready to give an answer.
That's exactly what they do. And gain is, similar to volume.
Right. Sensitivity.
Yeah. Microphone sensitivity. So all they need to do is get another microphone and point it toward the audience and do the same volume knob shifter thing when the reporter's asking the question. And then that way you're not fiddling with it, because then it ends up they're trying to turn it back down as soon as the coach is going into the answer. It ends up blowing out the whole first part of the answer.
Right.
And it sounds bad.
Yeah, this isn't complicated.
No, get another microphone and do the same volume adjustment thingy.
I think I have a couple of our old microphones lying around. Should we just mail one to the Seahawks?
Here, just plug this in.
From the Seahawkers podcast.
Yeah.
We should put a bow on it as a gift.
Yeah.
Could you please stop screwing this up?
Yeah, and we'll get them, I don't know, a $50
Best Buy gift certificate to get whatever hooky dealies they might need.
Yeah.
To get it all wired in.
Yeah.
Or maybe, $50 to pay for an online course for their little sound intern to figure it the hell out.
It's not hard.
I didn't think so. Because I'm a dumbass and I seem to understand what's going on here.
You nailed it.
Okay. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
We're sending a microphone to the VMAC. Do you remember the secretary's name? The front of the VMAC? Do you remember her name?
No.
I want to address it directly to her.
Directly.
Because she'll get it to the right person.
Yes, because you could tell she was the one that got things done around that place.
Hell yeah, man. She knew everybody and everything. Like, one of the higher ups would come by and she'd be like, oh, you're meeting with this person. They kind of get a quizzical look and she'd be like, yeah, you met him 14 years ago for 10 minutes at this one conference. You guys talked about shoelaces and like she knew everything.
Yeah, we'll get it to her. And thanks to the contribution from Sander, along with the contribution at gettingtheflock.com, Sander sent in an email saying, hey guys, been a listener for a while now and always thought to myself that I should donate one day, but somehow never got around to it. Turns out it was Adam's vicious dig at Jared Goff that did the trick. I agree. Pay that man all the money and then some. And to show I believe in fair compensation, I decided to join the flock as well. Keep it up. Love the podcast and the energy. You guys make my commute so much better. Go Hawks.
Well, thank you, Sander. We're here for you, man. Like, somebody's got to come out and speak truth to the Rams. Let them know exactly what they have on their team. Like the new Joe Flacco.
I'm just glad that we have somebody from Oostacker on that contributes to the show.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know where that is.
It's in one of the Scandinavian countries.
It's in Belgium.
That's not a Scandinavian country. You're blowing up my whole thing.
It's close to the Netherlands.
Yeah. I actually met some people from Belgium while in San Francisco. They were cool.
Oh.
That's a good story. I know. You're welcome.
It's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than this next story, which was a review that came in. Says, I tried to find a good Seahawks pod.
Oh.
I really enjoyed the Cardinals and Niners previews, which were filled with good information and coherent thoughts. However, the Rams preview featured Brandan, who wouldn't stop getting in the way of information with stupid hot takes and 12th man homerism. I had to turn it off and unsubscribe as it made it unlistenable.
Yeah, they seem to confuse you with me.
I don't think they are, because this person listened to both the 49ers and Cardinals, which it was just me and the guest.
Yeah.
And this person spelled my name right.
Okay.
Which I feel like if they're going through the trouble to spell my name right, they probably go through the trouble of knowing which voice is which.
Maybe. But also, too, Brandon, let's realize nobody hates you.
I bring a lot of 12th man homerism to every show, so I feel like that's accurate.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I was drunk for that one, so if they were mad about that, I don't know what to say. Sorry for trying to make something entertaining.
Last show was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
Except for the Rams fans being on
it. And even they're okay.
It was kind of funny, though, that this person had to not only just turn it off, but also had to unsubscribe.
Had to.
They went through the first two shows and go, oh, you know what? This is a pretty good show. And they got to the third show and they're like, oh, no, that's it.
Yeah, it's funny because generally the negative ratings, the handful that we get over the last, that we've gotten over the last 6-7 years, usually they come from somebody who I can tell is kind of a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
They're basically like the Bill Belichick of podcast listeners. I was looking for a great Seahawk podcast, and I just wanted straight information. Basically, if they could just talk about math equations instead of football and have passion, that'd be great. Because I can't stand anybody that has an opinion or gets excited about anything. That's lame. I unsubscribed.
Dude, you have Bill Belichick down. That is the perfect Bill Belichick impression.
It's subpar, but it's in the realm.
I thought it was just funny that the person quit after as many shows as the Rams had points in the Super Bowl.
That's good by you. 12th man homer.
The good thing is though, usually when we get a 1-star review in Apple Podcasts, I know that there's other listeners out there that are like, screw that guy, let's bury that review, send in more 5-star reviews. It usually happens, but I shouldn't say it out loud because now I'm going to jinx it.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Like, it is what it is, man. Like, we're not everybody's cup of tea.
I also don't want to jinx the ability of Michael Kendricks to play in the 2019 season. So I don't know how I should answer this next question because at Jay Green, and that's Green with an E _34 on Twitter says, Is there any news on Hendricks? Is he good to play all season or does he have a sentencing hearing coming up? And I researched this.
Yeah.
And because last I think we heard was that his sentencing hearing had been delayed. I don't know if they ever set a date for that, but there was a co-defendant of his that's coming up at the end of September for sentencing. I feel like if they have it scheduled out to September right now for that dude, there could be a delay from that. And then eventually, usually when they sentence people, especially for white collar crimes, they say, here's your report date for jail. Mm-hmm. And then they usually give you a little bit of time for that. So I kind of feel like he's okay for 2019.
This is the way that reading through the tea leaves that I parse this. Okay. All right. It sounds like dude who just had his sentencing hearing, Michael Kendrick's buddy, who was the guy that was like actually conducting the illegal trades.
Right.
And had the connections with the person giving him the insider information.
Yeah.
That dude is now getting sentenced because Michael Kendricks, when they asked him about it, was like, yeah, this is what I did. What's the problem?
Right.
Like legitimately didn't know he was doing anything wrong. Uh-huh. And then when they were like, no, you can't do that. That's insider trading. He's like, well, crap, man. That's what I did. I'm real sorry.
Yeah. What do I do to make it better?
What do you want to know?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, tell us all about your buddy. And it sounds like he did. And now the buddy's getting in trouble. And now the prosecution's just trying to decide, do they get enough pound of flesh out of that guy, to not have to send Michael Kendricks to jail? That's what it's sounding like to me.
Yeah. And there's an article on Field Goals by John Gilbert, who I think John has some legal background and knows stuff. And he brought up a case that was similar. It wasn't similar in terms of the amount of money, but it was similar in the number of trades. I think it was 2 trades instead of 4 that were made in the Kendricks case. The guy only made $90,000, and he ended up just getting probation. Right. Because it was a similar thing where I go, oh, I'm not supposed to do that. Oh, I'm sorry. That same type of thing.
Yeah.
And I was listening to an interview with James Comey recently, and he was the guy that prosecuted the Martha Stewart case.
Right. And
one of the reasons why he said he had to go forward in that is that he knew Martha Stewart was lying about it. He could tell that, it's totally different than the Kendricks case where he's like, oh, yeah, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Show contrition.
And gave back all the money.
Gave back the money. Right.
Yeah.
And Comey said in this interview that if Martha Stewart would have just done that, would have come clean, he wouldn't have prosecuted her. It was because she lied that he actually went through with it.
Right.
And I think she made a whole bunch of money off of her insider trades.
Yeah.
So
she's sneaky, that Martha Stewart.
I know. You got to watch out for her.
I'm really glad that we did spend resources and time through the U.S. court system to prosecute Martha Stewart. That's great. That's great. That's valuable stuff right there. Valuable work.
It turns out federal employees, they don't like being lied to.
Yeah, they get really pissy about it.
Federal investigators, they don't like that.
No, they take that personal.
So, but it doesn't sound like Kendricks was doing lying.
Right.
Part of it.
Sounds more like his buddy was. Who was living in his house and also like a chef or something? I don't know. It was weird.
I don't know.
It's all weird. So, to answer dude's question, maybe.
I'd even lean toward probably.
Yeah, it feels more like probably, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. But Kendricks is probably okay for 2019.
Yeah.
Unless the NFL comes along and decides that they need to suspend him more than the 8 games.
Well, who knows with the way that Roger Goodell passes out suspensions. Like I said, he's got to have a dartboard in his office, right? He's like, I think that guy did something wrong. And he just like blindfolds himself and chucks a dart at the deal. And like, whatever number it hits, he's just like, oh yeah. 8 games for him.
That's what we're doing.
He missed the board when Tyreek Hill came up.
I don't know how that happens.
Hard telling.
Don't you at least
makes all the sense?
Don't you at least get 1 game just for that voicemail?
You think?
I feel like yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna suspend guys for things that they're not convicted of,
yeah,
which is fine. Like, I'm not even mad about that. Like, if that's your policy,
yeah,
then okay. Then how does that work with Tyreek Hill? Like, because if you're just gonna suspend guys for a bad look for the league,
Tyreek Hill's a pretty bad look for the league.
Or if you believe that they did it,
yeah,
whatever it is that they're accused of, even if they weren't convicted of it, like, I don't understand.
I can't help you. I think that's
right.
I think that's where all the confusion amongst fans is coming from. Like, we just want to know that there's
a process.
A process. It has some consistency. Because, like with the Jaron Reed suspension, I see what happened in the police report. I know that it was a long time ago. After reading that, I go, oh, yeah, that deserves the suspension.
Yeah, I have no problems with that.
But then I see the Tyreek Hill and I go, yeah, that shit gets us some games.
Yeah.
And it gets 0 games.
0 games.
So it's like the
and then
catch
Zeke
rule.
Sometimes gets suspended, and then he sometimes doesn't.
Yeah, because what did he do? Something down in Vegas, right?
Which seemed every bit as shady as like what happened with his girlfriend. Like
what he actually got suspended for.
Right, and now he's already been suspended once. You think that would be like, well, now you did something else kind of a little, shifty. Like, you'd be more likely to get suspended the second time. And they're like, nah.
No, you were suspended enough the first time.
Right, and then...
But clearly not, because he apparently didn't learn from it.
And then he gets, like, recharged with something different down there, and now he might get suspended again?
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Oh, this is fun.
It's cool.
If we wanted to come up with a podcast that nobody would listen to, it would be trying to figure out...
The Seahawkers podcast?
Yeah.
Oh.
It would be the NFL Suspensions podcast.
There you go.
Because
trying to explain that nonsense?
It wouldn't make any sense. Probably nobody would really care.
Yeah. Wait, I just lost train of thought because I don't care either.
I want to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for some folks over in London. And I know our British listeners are amazing. And, this isn't a shot at all of them. Just some people that own a bar called 5cc Harold and Sons. And they've decided to change the way that you get a drink at the bar. Because apparently just going up with money, asking the bartender for a drink, having them pour it, and then hand it to you wasn't techie enough. Like, that was too simple. It screwed up everything. They had to improve it. And what was their bright idea? Let's bring in some AI to fix this. We need more AI in our life and computers to run just the simplest catfish in our life. We need more of that. So what do? They bring in this AI facial recognition system. So now to get a beer at this bar, you got to go in and have your face scanned like you're in a prison. And like them recognize you, put you in the queue. So that way everybody comes in and makes sure that they get served at first come, first serve. It ensures that.
Oh.
You know what also ensures that? Bartenders who pay the frick attention. That also ensures that. I don't need my face scan for that sort of thing. And as an added bonus that the Skynet of bars brings to the drinking world is if you go in and maybe you look a little too young, it's going to flag you for your ID and make you produce a specific ID. I think this is a horrible idea. The idea that I'm having my face scanned for anything I don't like, let alone just for a freaking beer, is absolutely overkill. I hate this. 5cc Harold and Sons, do better.
I wonder how many people are going to be taking makeup lessons now and like coming in, like maybe putting a beard on, graying their hair, trying to get really good.
Were they not doing that already to try to trick the bartender?
Yeah, but it's more fun to trick a computer.
I don't know, man.
Don't you think?
This is the end of the world, dude. Now it's getting to the point now, like where you have to do everything in the world on your phone. Like I can't park my car without my phone. Like I gotta pay for parking with my phone.
Yeah.
Like I can't I shave with my phone now. Like now I gotta order a beer with the phone. Like in facial recognitions and scans. It's absurd. I don't need any more technology.
It seems like the underlying problem here is that they've had some patrons complain that they weren't served in enough time, that they've been standing at the bar a long time. There's a lot cheaper way that you can fix this, is that you can put up a little sign that says order your beer here, and then put up a couple of cones so people know where to stand, and you make a line.
Dude, that's crazy talk. And you know what the other way is to be sure that you get your beer quickly and for much cheaper?
Look pretty?
Drink at home.
Oh.
Drink at home. Stop drinking at the bar. It's stupid. Like, it's just loud music. You can't hear your friends anyways. You pay 4 times as much for every stinking beer. Like, buy the beer, go home, watch TV, and be happier. And guess what? You don't have to have your face scanned by Bar Skynet. You don't have to do that. This is how the Terminator begins.
The Bar Skynet.
Yeah. It's terrifying.
My do better this week is for a Seahawks fan, at least who I thought was a Seahawks fan, Mina Kimes.
Oh, yeah.
Who is now employed by the Rams in the preseason. Mina Kimes has gotten a job as a preseason analyst for the Los Angeles Rams. I don't think I like this. I mean, I like that Mina Kimes as a Seahawks fan is doing well. She has a super popular podcast. She's on TV all the time. I like the fact that the Seahawks are recognized now. It's good to have some fans who are in the media community that you can go, yeah, I know that person's a Seahawks fan. And Mina seems really cool, but the Rams, it's going against deep principles of fandom to work on the sidelines unless she's doing it as a double agent, and I'll retract.
There we go.
I'll retract my do better if Mina Kimes is a double agent. But until I know for sure, Mina, do better.
Okay, all right. I like how you finally came around to it, because I think you're looking at this all wrong. Like, we have an insider now. Like, she can plant little things in there. Like, when they're talking about Todd Gurley and the other 3 announcers are all like, Todd Gurley's the best back that's ever been. Like, basically, he's 4 times greater than Walter Payton ever thought of being, and he's going to rush for 5,000 yards this year. And she can be like, yeah, probably. He's really good, and he's rush for a bunch of yards until his knee falls off. And like, she could just like shoot little interjections of truth in there, for the Seahawks. I think we have a sleeper agent now within the preseason Rams broadcast, and I implore her to use it appropriately. Use that power appropriately.
Yes, with great power comes great responsibility. We know this from the comics,
right?
And we expect the fandom to work its way in there somehow.
Yeah, just take little shots here and there. Just little shots. They don't have to be big shots.
I don't think I'm going to be watching Rams preseason games, though, to find out if they're there.
I might.
You might?
I might. I'm itching for football. Like, this is why I'm excited now to like start podcasting on the regular again for the season, because things are happening. It's happening, Brandon. Like, August 8th is coming. I get to see actual football. I can't wait. Like, I'm getting jazzed for this. And I might end up watching some Rams preseason football.
Wow.
Just so I have some more crap talk for the next time that we talk to the Rams guys.
Yeah.
Because out of all the podcasts every year, the one I look forward to the most in terms of just talking just absolute nonsense and like homery crap.
Yeah. It's against the Rams.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's cranking it up to 12 when they're on. Yeah. It's not like that all the time.
No. But I feel like that's just appropriate fan action responsibility.
Yeah. Unless you're the Bill Belichick of podcast listeners, then you don't like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, they listen for 3 shows and go away, so we don't even have to worry about those people.
Exactly.
On to Better at Life.
All right, man. My Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for a North Korean soldier who crossed the demilitarized zone and defected to South Korea. There's not a lot of details here, so it's going to be short.
Okay.
Somehow he got across the border, went face down in the river, started floating down the river that's kind of the border.
It's like Shawshank Redemption style.
He got picked up on a thermal scanner by the South Koreans, and they jerked him out of the river, and now he's in South Korea instead of North Korea.
Good for him.
That's better for his deal. And for that, he's better at life than Skip Bayless.
I've never seen Skip Bayless escape from North Korea.
He'd be probably one of the dear leader's good buddies.
Sure. Actually. Huh. That would be kind of fun.
Do you want to send Skip Bayless to North Korea? Like, that's how I felt like.
Well, we had Dennis Rodman for so long. Like, I feel like Skip Bayless is the ambassador to North Korea. That would be along those similar lines.
That's true.
I don't think he's less qualified than Dennis Rodman.
Similarly qualified, yeah.
I feel like he is.
Well, here's the problem, though, is that the dear leader loves himself some NBA basketball, especially 90s basketball, and I'm pretty sure Skip Bayless didn't play 90s NBA basketball.
He didn't play 90s NBA, but he probably still has a lot of hot takes about 90s NBA basketball.
Oh, without question.
They could talk it up.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of hot takes regarding LeBron and Jordan, I think. So, like, yeah. Him and Kim can sit there and talk about that in between missile launches or some crap.
Man, if they'd put that on TV, I would totally watch it.
Missile launches or Skip Bayless and Kim Jong-il talking about...
Can you put both together?
Oh, sure. Well, I guess it'd be hard with Kim Jong-il because he's dead. It'd be Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your Kim Jong... I got to get my Kim Jongs in a row. Yeah. Yep. Those guys, and we got to,
How do you even have a Seahawks podcast not knowing which Kim Jong is the leader of North Korea right now?
Yeah. If I get the child confused with the grandfather or the father, yeah, you're right. Get me off the air. Too many hot takes and homerism.
Get your Bryans right.
Yeah, I got my Schneiders and Bryans mixed up. Schneider and Schottenheimer are close too. See, that's where it gets.
Who allows you to continue to do this going into 7 years now with mistakes like that?
You know what's funny? Is it turns out there's no podcast police.
There's not.
Literally anybody can do this. And so here we are.
Here we are. And apparently you can listen or not.
Exactly.
One guy who I know doesn't listen is my Better at Life this week.
Yeah.
The $54 million man, Bobby Wagner.
True fact.
The 3-year, $54 million deal to stay with the Seattle Seahawks through 2022. I couldn't be happier about this. They got their leader on the defense locked up. I don't know if, in the heyday of all the Seahawks players, if he's the one that I would have expected to finish. Because now it feels like he's the one guy from that era who's going to finish his career with the Seahawks. And you can count Cam Chancellor, but his was short.
From the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. From the defensive side of the ball. And Cam's
not only that, but Cliff Averill and Cam Chancellor both finished their careers as Seahawks.
Right. But Cliff
and Earl Thomas has talked about coming back, and finishing his career in Seattle, whether that's like a one-day deal or something.
I'm thinking whole careers, though.
So Cam,
and hopefully Bobby now.
Maybe even KJ.
I'd be okay with KJ doing that, too.
How do you even have a Seahawks podcast when you constantly forget about KJ Wright?
I forgot him a few weeks back when I was talking about all the players with initials on the team.
Right.
And I left out KJ.
Moron.
Which is hard because there's a lot of guys with initials.
True fact.
I didn't forget about him this time. Now I know.
No. But he's not your Better at Life.
No, it's Bobby Wagner. And not only is he my Better at Life, did you see him get his shoes from Madden for being the 99, one of the 4 99s? He got like some gold shoes. A nice little plaque.
Are these 99 guys wearing these shoes during games?
They should. I feel like they should get an exemption from the NFL. You're talking 4 guys. It's only 4 guys. It's Aaron Donald. It's Bobby Wagner, DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
Khalil Mack. That was the 4th one.
Okay.
You going to argue against that?
I'm not sure DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver in the league.
Because he's always had a terrible quarterback throwing to him.
That's not true. Watson's okay.
I know. That's the one good one.
Right. But yeah, for the most part, he's played with craptastic quarterbacks.
Like Brian Hoyer and Brock Osweiler and
Case Keenum.
Yeah.
Is it that he plays with bad quarterbacks or he plays with a bad head coach?
Both.
I blame Bill O'Brien more.
I do too.
Yeah.
So Bobby Wagner, for being among those 4 names, getting the contract, negotiating it himself, which was pretty cool, and doing it outside of the limelight of the media. I like just how he kept it drama-free throughout the whole process. I feel like that's how you do it. Looking at you, Russell Wilson, and your baseball agent. And for that, Bobby Wagner, Better at Life than Skip Bayless.
Now, Russ and his agent didn't do it terribly, but you can do better. And
they could have gotten that same amount of money and not had all the New York, Russell Wilson would be so much better in New York conversations.
Well, did he start that stuff?
Probably.
Really?
Who do you think started it?
Oh, some dumbass reporter like looking for something to write.
I feel like it comes from somewhere.
Yeah, that was some Giants beat reporter that was just hoping for something other than Eli Manning or his younger clone.
I think it started with Cowherd.
It did start with Cowherd because he heard the agent like, yeah, this is a Colin Cowherd problem.
And he heard it through agents.
An entertainment agent.
Right.
Not a baseball/football agent.
Which means it was probably Sierra's agent
Or he made it up.
Or he made it up.
Just saying. No, but Bobby was the model. It was the model, right? Like, showed up. He's like, I'm not going to work out because that's a danger to my body, but I'm going to be here to mentor the other players. I'm not going to give crazy interviews and like demand trades and do all this nonsense. Yes, I'm going to represent myself, but when I go in and have those meetings, I'm going to be professional about it, and I'm not going to take crap personal because it's a business, and I'm going to negotiate the type of deal that I feel like I deserve. And then once that deal is signed, I show up to camp and I work hard. And in the meantime, I'm going to keep myself in tip-top shape. 5 stars. Perfect.
He took the Larry Fitzgerald approach, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, he nailed it.
But the thing is you never hear a whole lot of attention about the fact that Larry Fitzgerald negotiates his own contracts the same way.
Oh, yeah. Not as much with him, but when Okung does it, people freak out.
Well, when
Sherm did it, they freaked out.
Well, they freaked out because Sherm got such a bad deal.
Seems to be doing okay.
He could have done better.
I'm not sure he could.
I hope Okung's okay, though.
Yeah, that was scary, right? Some sort of blood clot thing in like his heart or something? Pulmonary something or other? Pulmonary embolism? Is that what it was?
I think that's a brain thing, isn't it?
I'm no doctor.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of details on his issue. I just know that he's not in training camp right now.
I saw something. Hold on.
I'm finding more on Okung and Bitcoin than I am about his actual injury.
Oh, dude. No. Don't do it. Don't do it.
No?
No. Yeah, what? You want to invest in fake money in the sky? Is that how you want to spend your money, Brandon?
It's the future, man.
Blood clot in lung. Near-death type experience. Thursday they suffered wait for it. Because it's loading. Because he said Thursday that he suffered a pulmonary ...
It cut it off just as at the part that we're wondering about.
Right. And the webpage won't load. It's just sitting here spinning circles.
Okay, I guess it is an embolism.
Nailed it.
I guess that's the thing that's caused by blood clots. Maybe because it's fatal when it's in your brain.
Well, the pulmonary system is your blood system, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's start a doctoring podcast.
How do you have a health issue podcast and not know what pulmonary means?
Like this. That's how I do it.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. See, I nailed it that time when I'm not drunk.